Good morning. This is my book presentation for Art and Fiction of The Tortoise and the Jackrabbit by Susan Lowell and Jim Harris. This book is age appropriate for 8+ for reading, and it's a great story for younger children to be read to. I'll first tell you the little summary of the story. So, The Tortoise and the Jackrabbit is a classic didactic tale of a race between two southwestern animals. Slow, steady, and wise Tortoise, exhilarated by the beautiful spring desert day, exclaims, "I feel good, I feel fast." Overhearing her comment is the overly confident and boastful Jackrabbit. He brags that he is the fastest runner in the desert. Undeterred, Tortoise exclaims, "Let's race." So this is a really cute story, and I'd first like to talk about the illustrations in the story by Jim Harris. As you can see in one of these first images, he uses a lot of texture and details to convey the dry, dusty desert. You can see each hair on the jackrabbit and the small brush strokes that he uses in the boulders convey texture and depth. You can also see that the jackrabbit has a soda and the tortoise has a parasol to keep them out of the desert sun. This next image shows a lot of movement. You can see that the jackrabbit has got a twisted body, and he's really showing the tortoise how fast he is, and the tortoise is just mildly, taking it all in. The illustrator uses a technique here, in addition to detail and scale, he's using saturated and unsaturated colors. So you can see the mountain in the background, the colors are unsaturated, but the main characters are saturated. This draws attention more to the main characters in the story. In this image, you can see a lot of the desert animals. Now, the illustrator didn't have to add all these different desert animals into the story because they're not all in the story, but it does show you a lot of the different ones that are specific to the desert, like a Gila monster, an alpha owl, and a rattlesnake. In this image, you can see not only detail but humor that Jim Harris uses. Like here in this image of the buzzard, the mouse is hanging on for dear life. Over here, you see a hot air balloon with the press up in the sky giving the bird's eye view. And then down here at the bottom, you can see the image of a small creature, a mouse or something, that's got a political sign for mayor. This is another image that shows a great bit of detail of Tortoise, and down here at the bottom he's added this small bit of humor, T power for tortoise power. This image anthropomorphizes, I'm not sure that I'm saying that word correctly, the automobile. He could have just put an automobile that was about to run over Tortoise, but instead he gave it a face, and I think this adds a lot to the image, adds more emotion. In this image, we see that Jackrabbit has gone so fast to try to catch up that he's bowled over a Gila monster, a skunk, and this small little kangaroo rat to try to get back in the race. And here's the final image that has all the desert animals as Tortoise is about to cross the finish line. Jackrabbit hasn't quite caught up, and everybody's cheering Tortoise on. Again, there's our politician. So Jim just uses a lot of detail and humor in his images that I think really enhance the story and add to it. So let's go back and talk for a minute about Susan Lowell's story. She's taken a classic tale and given it a Southwest twist. In addition to educating her audience about desert flora and fauna, and the moral of the story, which is that the slow and steady win the race, she's done some really kind of neat things in her story. For one, she phonetically sounds out words that are difficult that may not be familiar to some readers, such as mesquite, saguaro, and tarantula. Here you can see in this passage, over the rocky hill, across the dusty flat place, under the mesquite trees, to the watering hole. Secondly, she put some fun phrases in her story that give us more insight into the character. For instance, in this passage, the jackrabbit bolted away. Long, low, leap, ho, he sang, and over the rocky hill he soars in less than no time. So you get to say that a couple of times in the story, long, low, leap, ho, and it's just one of those really fun phrases that tells us how speedy and fast the jackrabbit is. And then here, regarding the tortoise, as she moved her scaly toes up the slope, scritch, scratch, lump, thump, she went. So this kind of describes the sound that a tortoise might make going through the desert. And again, we get to say that a few times in the story, which is just really fun to read. So one of the final things that I thought was neat about Susan's story was at the end of the story when Tortoise wins the race. That's not the final ending. She receives a bouquet. And with this little bit of humor, she slowly and happily ate it. So I thought that was really great. And then the final note in this story is a postscript that brings attention to the ecological plight of the tortoise and the jackrabbit and the desert as a precious place worth preserving. So I really like this story for many reasons. It has great illustrations, it has humor, lots of detail. There's an educational component about the Southwest. It's a didactic or moral tale that teaches us that if we are slow and steady, we will win the race. And I just think it's a great children's book. Thank you.